Hello, my name is Nicholas Morgan. I'm an editor at Aval News, and this is Turkey Abroad. Joining me today is Ivan Bocharov. He is a researcher at the Russian International Affairs Council in Moscow. Ivan, I'm really happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Nicholas, for inviting me to participate in today's conversation. It's a honor for me to be a guest of this program.
I'm happy to hear that. And I'm also really happy to get your thoughts on the topic today, which is going to be Turkey and Russia's relationship inside of Libya, because earlier this month on February 5th, it was announced that new Libyan elections would be taking place in December, and that an interim government has been named, including an interim president as well as an interim prime minister. Ivan, I'd like to ask, what is your assessment of these candidates that have been selected to lead Libya towards elections? Who are they, and what does their selection mean to you?
In February, delegates to the Libyan Political Dialogue Forum chose a new Libyan executive authority in a transitional period, pending elections in December 2021. Among the candidates for the new leadership of Libya were not so famous political figures, such as the Speaker of the Libyan House of Representatives, Agila Saleh, or Minister of Interior of the GNA, Fathi Bashaga. However, the leadership positions were taken by other people, less famous and less influential. Abdul Hamid Dbeibah became new prime minister. He's a businessman and a construction magnate from Misrata. In 2007, when Gaddafi ruled, Dbeibah headed the state-owned Libyan Investment and Development Company. He's a businessman with a mixed reputation. Somebody accused him of corruption. He was elected prime minister, and it was a surprise for many people. And there's also surprise that the head of presidential council is Mohammad Menfi. He belongs to the Al Manfa tribe. He is known as a member of General National Congress, the first Libyan parliament after the revolution in 2011. He is also known as the ambassador of the Government of National Accord in Greece. The Greek authorities asked him to leave the country after the memorandums between Tripoli and Ankara were concluded in autumn 2019. The vice presidents are also unexpected. Abdullah Hussein al-Lafi is a member of House of Representatives, while he is an opponent of Khalifa Haftar. He is known for his radical views. He is accused of contacts with Salafi, Ansar al-Sharia, and the Muslim Brotherhood. Musa al-Kuni previously was at the Presidential Council, which was chaired by Faris Sarraj, and was a deputy prime minister for a time. But in 2017, he stepped down due to disagreements with Sarraj. Not very influential and respected people come to power, and I have a fear that the transitional government will not be respected by Libyans. Disagreements among the warring factions persist and will persist because each power will try to make its political position stronger. We can only assume how the new leaders of Libya fit into the interests of Russia and Turkey, because they didn't take a lot of action. And even the ministers of the new government haven't yet been approved by the members of parliament. I would like to hope that the composition of the new government will meet the interests of not only Russia, Turkey, and other external actors, but mostly will meet the Libyan people. forming a new government, it's necessary to maintain a balance and take into account the interests of representatives of all Libyan regions. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Bogdanov has already discussed the situation in the Libya by phone with the new Prime Minister of Libya, and they agree that it's important to ensure the unity, territorial integrity, and independency of Libya.
So another part of the deal for this new interim government and this plan for elections in December was an October deadline for the withdrawal of all foreign forces inside of Libya. And we know now that both Turkey and Russia have been accused of sending different mercenary groups to go fight in Libya. In Turkey's case, they've commissioned Syrian mercenaries to fight on the side of the Government of National Accords, the GNA, in Tripoli. And then Russia has been constantly said to have sent Wagner mercenaries to fight on the side of the Tobruk government and Khalifa Haftar, as well as sending their own Syrian mercenaries, according to a number of reports. But what do you think about this October deadline to withdraw from inside Libya? When many of the sponsors like Russia and Turkey, they deny that these mercenaries are there in the first place or that they are responsible for them.
In October last year, an agreement was reached in Geneva, according to which hostilities must be stopped immediately, and all foreign mercenaries and militants must leave the territory of Libya. However, I want to remind that there have been similar resolutions before. For example, in January 2020, participants in the Berlin conference agreed on the withdrawal of foreign troops from Libya. And we know that after January and after October, this wasn't done. And the problem is not only in denying the existence of these divisions, although this also plays a role. For example, Turkey doesn't deny that it sent its troops to Libya. According to official statements, this is done within the framework of legitimate memorandum of military cooperation between Ankara and Tripoli. It says that it doesn't fall under the definition of foreign mercenaries because it's still a regular army and military instructions. Denying the existence of foreign troops in Libya is also a problem for the implementation of the agreement. A lot of mercenaries from sub-Saharan Africa, as example. Some media report that some countries, including Russia, are using private military companies to advance political interests. I think that the process of complete withdrawal of foreign troops from Libya is so far impossible to control, just as it's impossible to guarantee that there will be no shooting in Libya. The shooting continues, but on a smaller scale. Foreign mercenaries and military instructors also remain in Libya for now. And I think, as for me, I believe that the world community doesn't yet have sufficient resources to ensure that there is no direct military intervention in the Libyan conflict by other states.
Mm-hmm. So, so another part I would like to ask you about actually is the involvement of the United States now, because during the Trump administration, of course, they took a hands-off approach to the Libyan conflict, choosing not to really embed themselves very deeply in the diplomatic process and interacting with both sides, of course. And even before that, the Obama administration had focused on Libya entirely almost on a counterterrorism lens. But now we have Joe Biden in office. And do you think that Joe Biden's administration in any way changes the relationship that is going on between Russia and Turkey inside of Libya? And how do you think that these changes are really affecting the situation?
As far as I know, in 2011, Joe Biden was against the military intervention in Libya, which eventually happened. Very short time has passed since he became a president of the United States. And judging by the world experience, which we can analyze in history, and this is too short period. Joe Biden is just beginning the accelerate. And I think we can make conclusions about his policy a little later. We can say that the Middle East will take an important place in Biden's foreign policy. I think you know that Joe Biden is nominated veteran diplomat William Burns as CIA director. He was the ambassador to Russia and Jordan. Also, he is the former assistant secretary of state for Near Eastern affairs from 2001 to 2005. That includes the period when the Iraq war began. I repeat that so far few actions have been taken to outline the contours of American policy in Libya. So far, the policy has focused on Iran and Saudi Arabia. And what will happen to Libya? Judging by the statements of the new US Secretary Antony Blinken, the US will only support the efforts of the United Nations, will support Stephanie Williams in her efforts to establish peace in Libya. I don't think that we will see a deep level of US involvement in the Libyan conflict, but I don't deny that this can happen. So far, this has little effect on the political positions of Turkey and Russia. I assume that the United States can strengthen its sanctions policy, both concerning Russia and Turkey, including because of the situation in Libya. However, I don't think that this is a significant power over the positions of inter-Libyan and external actors. This is my view.
Hmm. Now that we are also moving ideally in the direction of an end to this conflict inside Libya that's been going on now for about a decade, the question then becomes, with all these foreign actors, especially Russia and Turkey as the largest ones so far, what are the end goals in your view for both Russia and Turkey? And we've heard plenty on what either one of them may want in terms of economic contracts that were lost during the Gaddafi period when he fell, or of course military bases, is another one that often comes up for both sides. But do you think that these interests for Russia or Turkey coincide, or do you think that there is still room for, say, disagreements or potentially more conflict between them?
The ultimate goals of Turkey and Russia have their specifics, and at the same time, they have some similarities. Libya is very important for the Republic of Turkey and for President Erdogan, particularly. And today, the Libyan issue occupies one of the most important places in Turkish foreign policy. First of all, Istanbul's foreign policy throughout the Eastern Mediterranean depends on the sustainability of the Faiz Sarraj government. In November 2019, Ankara and Tripoli signed two memorandums of military cooperation and the establishment of a zone of exclusive economic interests of Turkey in the Eastern Mediterranean. The Turkish authorities believe that this agreement allows them to extract natural gas in the waters of other states, more often in the territorial waters of Cyprus. Any other political forces, except for Sarraj, don't support this legal drilling. If we assume that Libya is ruled by Turkey's opponents, then Istanbul is left completely alone. and no one Mediterranean state supports Erdogan's ambitions for natural gas. There are the important aspects, including putting additional pressure on Egypt. Egypt has a border with Libya, and the civil war in Libya is a very big headache for the Egyptian authorities. The coming to power in Libya of pro-Turkish forces and the deployment of a large number of Turkish bases in Libya, it will allow Turkey to put pressure on Egypt. Turkey also has economic interests in Libya. The Turkish authorities would be happy if they managed to allow Turkish construction companies to participate in the reconstruction of Libya after the war. I think you know that the development of construction companies is very important for Turkey, for its economy. The Turkey would also like to participate in the extraction and processing of energy resources, including oil, in Libya. Russia is interested in the early final of the war and the unification of Libya. Russia in Libya is mainly pursuing economic interests. I'm talking about the same participation in the restoration of infrastructure, the restoration of housing. Also, Russian oil and gas companies would like to be involved in the production and processing of oil and gas. But in my opinion, Russia doesn't have many political goals in Libya, and this is expressed in a more cautious policy in Libya, comparing with Syria. Turkey openly supports Tripoli and sends armies and equipment to the GNA, while Haftar is considered a terrorist. Russia maintains contacts with all parties of the conflict, while the media have reported of support for Libyan National Army. And it seems to me that Moscow is not interested in Libya becoming Libya becomes a puppet in the hands of Erdogan. Turkey is a very unpredictable partner, so it would be beneficial for Russia if the Turkish influence in Libya is not very large. I believe that Moscow has more common interests in Libya with Cairo, which has much less ambition than Ankara, and just wants to secure its western borders. Of course, this gives rise to disagreements between Russia and Turkey. Whose companies will participate in the restoration of Libya? Under what conditions will Russian companies participate in the production of Libyan oil if pro-Turkish forces take over? I don't have exact answers to these questions. There's a misunderstanding in relations between Russia and Turkey on the Libyan issue, and this will cause difficulties in the future. But there will not be a big conflict that almost arose in Syrian Idlib. The security and territorial integrity of Syria is one of the main priorities of Russia's Middle East policy. I think that in Libya, Moscow is more ready to compromise.
Mm-hmm. Ivan, it was great to really have you talk about this topic. Libya is something that's we're going to probably be returning back to again and again, especially as we get closer to these elections. And on top of it, too, Turkey and Russia are going to always be maneuvering against one another, whether it's in Libya, Syria, etc. So there's always going to be something to talk about there. But until then, I really do thank you for taking the time to join me today, and I look forward to hearing from you again soon.
Thank you. I was very happy to participate in our conversation.
My name is Nicholas Morgan, and this is Turkey Abroad.